Hello and welcome back to CEO.CA's Inside the Boardroom. My name is James Bitstamp and today I'm joined by Dean Skurka, President and CEO of WonderFi Technologies. Dean, it's great to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So let's kick things off. Just a quick summary. Can you give us the elevator pitch for WonderFi?
Yeah, WonderFi is publicly traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange under the symbol WNDR. We are one of Canada's leading cryptocurrency trading providers. We own and operate two fully regulated crypto trading platforms that combined have over 1.7 million Canadian registered accounts. And over the last 2 years, we have consolidated the industry quite meaningfully. We've acquired 5 of the 11 regulated platforms in the country.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that overview. I know you've been doing your consolidation of the market, obviously lots of acquisitions, but also consolidated 2 of your owned trading platforms. Can you tell us a bit more about how is that, what impact does that have on the company and what are the impacts for the users?
Yeah, absolutely. We acquired a company called CoinSquare last summer that was Canada's first and only zero-regulated crypto trading platform at the time. We developed a strategy to integrate the crypto trading platforms that we had previously acquired into that regulated entity to provide all of our 1.7 million users that regulated offering that could pair our technology and infrastructure and our easy-to-use mobile app and experience with the comfort of being a regulated entity. And so we announced last week that BitBuy has now been consolidated within that zero-regulated entity. And so now all of our users have the benefit of trading through a zero-regulated crypto trading platform. Through that process, we have also streamlined our operations quite meaningfully. Mm-hmm. If you think about when we acquired this asset in July of last year, we operated 4 crypto trading platforms. Part of this strategy was to streamline our operations, our back office functions, and our technology infrastructure to really smooth out operations and to create those operational and cost synergies that have flushed out throughout the year.
Okay, great. Yeah, I imagine it's no small feat integrating 5 acquired companies under the same parent company. You announced record revenues so far last year, $18.5 million. Can you walk us through the business kind of model underlying that? What is attributing to these great results? What are the projections looking like for the rest of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was $18.5 million of revenue in Q1 of this year. And when you think about what we have done over the last 2.5 years, as I mentioned, consolidating these 5 crypto trading platforms, we have created Canada's largest user base for cryptocurrencies. We have 1.7 million accounts across retail and institutional. And the result of that is meaningfully more trading volumes on our platform at a WonderFi level than we previously had. And so if you think about the impact of these consolidations, more users, more trading volumes, more revenues, and at the same time, when you think about the industry over the last 6 months, it has really gone through a meaningful shift in terms of overall sentiment and the outlook for the industry. You think about the impacts in January of the launch of the Bitcoin ETFs. Through Q1, there was $12.5 billion of net inflows into these Bitcoin ETF products in the US. And at the same time, the price of Bitcoin drove to all-time highs and peaked at about $75,000 US. What does that mean for our businesses? That means more people are talking about cryptocurrency in a positive light. More people are interested in cryptocurrency through the ETFs. More individuals, more institutions are more open to the idea of digital assets, and that really reflects well on our trading volumes and, of course, our revenues. And at the same time, as I mentioned, we have been really focused on our cost structure, integrating these trading platforms, creating a sustainable business model. And so while the $18.5 million of revenue was very encouraging, at the same time, we were able to drive almost over $7 million of EBITDA, which really reflects on the integrations and the success of those integrations that we have completed. And looking forward, we're really encouraged by having BitBuy and CoinSquare on one tech stack, which will create further synergies and opportunities to streamline the operations. And we would expect those, EBITDA numbers to continue moving forward.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And I want to touch on Bitstamp. You acquired the Canadian client of Bitstamp. Are they going to be integrated under the same tech stack as the other platforms, or what's the vision there?
Yep, absolutely. And so, the Bitstamp acquisition is a really, strong indicator of our presence in the Canadian market as the consolidator. And so Bitstamp is a large international exchange that made the decision to leave the Canadian market due to the regulatory advancements in this country and the fact that it was a relatively smaller market and less of a priority for them. And so we took that as an opportunity to consolidate more users onto our platforms, and through that process work with Bitstamp to be able to take those Canadian users and give them a regulated home with similar experience from a technology perspective. That acquisition was similar to the one we completed in November when we acquired a smaller crypto exchange in Canada called Bitfo. And so what we did with Bitfo was we structured the acquisition as an asset purchase. It was a non-dilutive acquisition. And rather than acquiring the legal entity, the regulated entity, the overhead and the liabilities that existed with the business and operating that business on a go-forward basis, we acquired the users and the associated liabilities with those users and transferred them onto our platform within a week of acquiring them. Now with Bitstamp, we'll be similarly acquiring just the users. And so from an acquisition perspective, it's really provides a lot of synergies and allows for us to just port over the users into our existing infrastructure and to allow them to be in trading seamlessly.
Okay, interesting. I do want to touch on the regulatory aspect of it. Obviously, you mentioned a couple of times here that the fact there's only 11 regulated companies in Canada, regulated exchanges. Obviously there's an evolving landscape, right? How does Canada stack up to other comparable markets and other regulations favorable for a business model such as WonderFi's?
Yeah, it's a great question. Canada, in many respects, has been at the forefront of regulating cryptocurrency exchanges like the ones we operate. And so with that comes a clear and concise framework for how our platforms are allowed to operate, the services they are allowed to offer, and the policies and procedures that govern those platforms. In many respects, that has allowed for the industry in Canada to continue to grow and open up the market to a broader audience that otherwise would maybe be less likely to engage with platforms like ours. At the same time, from a WonderFi level, it has allowed us to consolidate the industry by acquiring these entities, because as a public company, it was really important to acquire platforms that are regulated, that have been vetted, that we can meaningfully rely on those businesses in terms of go-forward operations. And so it has been incredibly beneficial to WonderFi through its consolidation strategy, and also to our operating platforms to target a broader audience through this regulation. And so we would think that Canada is one of the leaders in this industry in terms of regulation. And if you think about the evolution, these regulatory licenses originated with spot trading. So they would simply govern the buying and selling of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and the other assets that we support. Working with the regulators, we have explained to them that the industry is far broader than just spot markets. Yeah. And so through those processes, we've been able to introduce a new product to our platform, staking, which allows users to take a subset of the assets we offer, proof of stake assets, and after they've purchased them, they are allowed to stake them, which in effect provides them with a reward to a varying degree based on the asset. If you look at Ethereum right now, it currently pays about 3.5–4%. And so if you're a user of BitBuy or CoinSquare and you want to send Canadian dollars to our platform and buy Ethereum, you can also leave it on our platform and generate 3.5–4% APY paid out in Ethereum. And so this is a good example of regulators understanding the totality of the industry, working with participants like us to grow the offerings that we are able to provide Canadians in a regulatory compliant manner. And so through that process, what you'll see from platforms like ours is a continued evolution of the products and services that we offer, and at the same time, providing Canadians with that regulatory compliant ecosystem where they can transact with confidence.
Okay, and for our users who might be more familiar with traditional commodity markets, and I think we're starting to see a shift of the perception of cryptocurrencies as being more commodity-like. What is there a futures market there? Is that supported by WonderFi, or is it still is that what the staking kind of represents as a parallel?
No, not exactly. There are future markets that exist globally for digital assets, but that would be an example of a new product line that we are working with the regulators on to bring forward to the Canadian market. Today, there is no regulated or regulatory compliant offering or ability for Canadians to engage in futures markets for cryptocurrency. So that's something that we are working to bring to the market. But globally, they do exist, and they are quite popular in terms of the institutional interest that we've seen with crypto.
Okay. Yeah, interesting to see that. I guess it's on the radar for Canada. And Canada is, as you say, you're becoming a crypto hub. You saw the Consensus conference moving from Texas to Toronto for 2025, I believe. So excited to be a part of that next year. I do want to talk about a different market, Australia. You're entering Australia as your first kind of market outside of Canada. Walk us through the vision there. What's the plan for entering Australia?
Well, absolutely. Well, through our consolidation process and through the integrations of these platforms onto a single tech stack, we've really created a seamless experience for Canadians to onboard into the digital asset ecosystem and to engage within a regulatory compliant ecosystem with a really strong mobile and web app that provides seamless experience in terms of funding and purchasing the digital assets, and then being able to use them beyond our ecosystem. And so we feel like the product is in a really good position to expand into global markets. You think about the broader opportunity for WonderFi to be not only the market leader in Canada, but to also expand into new markets and build up a presence similar to the one we have here. This is something we've been really focused on in terms of finding that next market to have an impact in. Australia in particular has some of the highest adoption rates globally for cryptocurrency. Okay. It is a country that really embraces the digital asset ecosystem and industry, and also has clearly defined regulatory system in place. And so as a public company, when we look at markets that we want to enter into, there has to be a combination of relative interest amongst the population for the asset class, and also clear and defined regulations that will allow us to invest in that market with confidence and really build up a long-term presence there. And so we think Australia is a really good starting point for us. There are other similarities from a demographic perspective with Canada. And so we think that this is a really good entry point for WonderFi into the global expansion of our product offering. And so we're really encouraged by, the team we're putting together in that market. And we think that there's a really good path forward for us to have success in Australia, and then to really use that as a model to grow beyond Australia into other new markets as well.
Okay, interesting. You mentioned obviously demographic similarities and similarities in as much as there is a clarity around the legal framework. How do the regulations compare in Australia, and what are the milestones for kind of becoming regulated there?
Yeah, so we acquired an entity that had the regulatory licensing required to operate, and so in many respects we use that as a way to fast track some of the processes in terms of doing them ourselves, incorporating a new business there, going through the regulatory process. And so, we have leveraged M&A to, I guess in effect, fast track our presence in that market. And in terms of the similarities, there are many similarities. And at the same time, it feels as though Australia is a few years behind in terms of some of the broader, regulatory frameworks that exist in Canada, staking being one example. Okay. And so we think that there's a really good opportunity for us to build relationships with the regulators in Australia and other markets and say, well, here's what, here's how we operate in Canada. Here's the process that we undertook to work with regulators. Here is the output in terms of how we operate, the policies and procedures, and really use WonderFi and its platforms, CoinSquare and BitBuy, as a blueprint for success for countries moving forward to continue to evolve the regulatory framework. And so we think that not only can we have an impact with our product and our service offerings, but at the same time, our understanding and our knowledge of regulatory compliance within this new and exciting asset class to really build those relationships and help bridge the gap between markets where there may be some uncertainty and markets like Canada, where we've really evolved the regulatory landscape for this asset class.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, just to wrap up, obviously very busy time at WonderFi, entering new markets, bringing new companies under the wing of WonderFi through M&A. What else is planned for the rest of the year, and why is now an exciting time for investors to be paying attention?
Yeah, look, I think for WonderFi in particular, we put together 3 of Canada's largest businesses less than a year ago when we acquired CoinSquare and CoinSmart. And so the story is still relatively new to a very broad audience from an investor perspective. And so we think there's a really strong opportunity for investors to look at this business, look what we've put together. We've consolidated 5 regulated crypto trading platforms in the country. We now operate 2. And so through that, we've created meaningful operational synergies. We've combined all of the 1.7 million users we've acquired into one of 2 zero regulated trading platforms in the country. Yeah. We have an incredible user experience and mobile app that allows Canadians to seamlessly onboard and buy and sell the digital assets. And at the same time, when we think about the industry more broadly, as I mentioned, you think about the impact that the Bitcoin ETFs have had in terms of the relative sentiment and expanding the audience, the potential audience for this industry. And now we think about the Ethereum ETFs that were approved in the U.S. not too long ago, and the Bitcoin halving that happened about a month ago. There are clear catalysts that will keep this industry in the spotlight and in a favorable light moving forward. And so we think that will continue to reflect well on WonderFi's current operating businesses. At the same time, we have a very clear roadmap to add features like we've discussed to the product offering. And we believe through those processes, we're just going to continue to add more value to the users of our platform, which will then reflect well on trading volumes, assets on our platforms, and of course, revenues and profitability for WonderFi. You think about the international expansion that we've been focused on, that we're really focused on building our presence in Australia. We think over the next few months, we'll have really established our plans there and be able to start driving volumes in the market. And then from there, really expanding on where can we go next and how do we continue to create value for WonderFi shareholders. And so when I think about the business and what we've put together, we've spent the last 6 to 9 months really integrating the assets we've acquired. Mm-hmm. Through that process, we've established ourselves as the market leader in Canada. Through these acquisitions, we've also strengthened our balance sheet quite meaningfully. We have about $50 million of cash and digital assets on the company's treasury. And so we think about this business, we've integrated these assets, these offerings. We've really improved our product. And now we're clearly focused on growth. And whether that's through the platforms themselves or new markets or other M&A, we're really focused on maximizing shareholder value and really using this opportunity and where we are in the market cycle to grow at a very aggressive pace.
Well, certainly an exciting year ahead. Looking forward to more updates. Thanks so much for joining us, Dean.
Thank you. Appreciate it.